Dockerizing an application involves creating a Docker image that contains all the dependencies and configuration needed to run the application. Dockerizing applications can simplify the deployment process, improve consistency, and reduce the risk of errors and conflicts. Here are some best practices and tips for Dockerizing applications. 1. Keep images small. Docker images should be as small as possible to reduce the download and storage time. Use multi-stage builds, remove unnecessary files, and avoid installing unnecessary dependencies. 2. Use the latest base image. Use the latest version of the base image to take advantage of security updates and bug fixes. 3. Separate application code from configuration. Separate the application code from the configuration to enable the same image to be used across different environments. 4. Use environment variables. Use environment variables to pass configuration values to the container. This makes it easier to configure the application and maintain consistency across environments. 5. Use volumes. Use volumes to store data outside the container, such as logs, configuration files, and databases. This enables the container to be replaced without losing data. 6. Use health checks. Use health checks to ensure that the container is running correctly. This can prevent failed containers from being used in production. 7. Use container orchestration. Use container orchestration tools, such as Docker Swarm or Kubernetes, to manage the deployment and scaling of containers. This can improve reliability and scalability. 8. Consider security. Consider security when Dockerizing applications. Use the latest base image, only install necessary packages, and avoid running containers as root. 9. Test images. Test Docker images to ensure that they are functioning correctly. Use automated testing tools to run tests inside the container. 10. Document images. Document the Docker image and the process used to create it. This makes it easier for other developers to understand and use the image. 11. Use caching. Use caching to speed up the Docker build process. Docker caches intermediate layers, so if a layer has not changed since the last build, Docker can reuse the cached layer. 12. Avoid running multiple processes in a container. Containers should run a single process. Avoid running multiple processes in a container, as this can make it harder to manage and debug the container. 13. Use the correct base image. Use the correct base image for the application. For example, use a Python base image for a Python application and a Node.js base image for a Node.js application. 14. Use labels. Use labels to provide metadata about the image, such as the version, maintainer, and build date. This can make it easier to manage and organize images. 15. Follow the principle of least privilege. Follow the principle of least privilege when configuring the container. Only install necessary packages and avoid running the container as root. 16. Use Dockerfile best practices. Follow best practices when writing Docker files. For example, use the copy command instead of add and avoid using the latest tag for the base image. 17. Use a private registry. Use a private registry to store Docker images. This can improve security and control over the distribution of images. 18. Monitor containers. Monitor the performance and status of containers. Use tools such as Docker stats and Docker events to monitor container metrics and events. By following these best practices and tips, developers can create Docker images that are efficient, secure, and reliable, and can simplify the deployment process for their applications.